Hello Shas, welcome to another video where I want to talk to you about a unit that I think from the codex there's quite a few people sleeping on in terms of its utility, its usefulness, and what it can bring to a number of lists as a standalone, useful unit, regardless of detachment. Just a quick note, we are running a giveaway within the Patreon at the moment where if you are at the $5 tier or higher by the end of April, you have a chance to win this beautiful bad boy right here, as well as the foil data cards that come with it. This is a limited edition codex out of the Croup box, and if you would like to get your hands on one and go into the draw to win it, then head to the links in the description for Patreon or YouTube membership at the Shaswee tier or higher. Get access to the Discord, a bunch of other things, and if you go for one of the higher tiers, some premium coaching from yours truly. Let's get into the video. So what I wanted to talk about is these beautiful boys. Now, the first thing that will jump out to you, my photography skills are not great. Now, I don't have any digital imagery just yet of a really, really good one for these, so I just took one off the data cards. But as you can see, when we look at the Scythe units, there are a number of people that look at this data sheet and think, okay, yeah, I guess it's all right. But I think they're missing on a few of the real strengths that this unit can bring. Now, the first thing that I want to point out is the Scythe ability just here. Every time they target something that isn't a monster or vehicle, notice it just says excluding monsters or vehicles, improve armor penetration of that attack by 1. That includes Custodes Bikers. That includes beasts and swarms and all different forms. That is blood crushers. That is Croup rampages. That is anything that is not a monster or a vehicle. Always ask your opponent, always check in on that. But having at base, D6, Strength 4, AP 1, Damage 1 Flamers is going to get some measure of work done into targets that your opponent probably doesn't want you shooting, let's be honest. But when you look at that, you think, okay, cool, so I've got some Flamers, whatever. Well, I've pointed out in a previous video that they're also a great Overwatch target, which means you can put something down, flame somebody, and then know that you're going to get potentially 6d6 immediate hits onto a target, which will whittle them down and make the unit up to the point where it's battle shocking or it just doesn't have the output to kill the crisis suits in return. But that's not specifically what I want to talk about. A lot of the lists that I've been making outside of Retaliation Carter don't have a ton of stuff that I want to start off the board. And even when it does start off the board, a lot of the stuff I've been taking goes into strategic reserves. I don't have proper deep strike. The biggest problem with not having proper deep strike is that strat reserves come on wholly within 6 inches of a board edge, which means that all your opponent has to do to screen isn't the 18 between every single unit on the board to create a mesh of screening. All they have to do is be near a board edge and do that 9 inches and they're good to go. It also means that we can't threaten the middle of the board, which can be a problem against certain matchups. So when I look at this unit, and I go, okay, cool, I can have, 5 wound bodies, 3 of them, drop down outside of 9 of any of my opponent's units, potentially get me things like, and on a flamer unit, I had this against one of my players was playing Chaos Knights, and in that matchup, I was able to use the Star Scythes to get like 15 victory points across the course of a game, because I knew they weren't going to kill anything. I wasn't sending them after the Chaos Knights. I was sending them to do my behind enemy lines, my deploy teleport homer, my, whatever. The other side of deep striking is that you can do it in your opponent's deployment zone from turn 2 onwards. Strategic reserves specifically states you cannot do it from turn 2. You can only do it from turn 3. Turn 2, you can come in no man's land and you can come in your deployment zone, but you are not able to do so within your opponent's deployment zone. So being able to draw a card turn 2, see, oh, you've left that spot open in your deployment zone, and then drop a Scythe unit down and immediately get 5 victory points for doing something that your opponent didn't expect is incredibly powerful. Having things to hang over your opponent, if you're in an infantry-based matchup, and your opponent goes, okay, I don't just have what I've got on the board that I'm looking at, I also have to worry about the stuff that he has in the sky ready to come down and deep strike onto my face. That creates a little bit of mental game. Now, am I saying the Scythe unit is always going to be good for killing? No, absolutely not. But what I'm saying is that deep striking is generally always useful. It has some measure of controlling the game or controlling your opponent's thinking, even if they don't realize that they're having to play around it. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about is because these star sides can take a marker drone, and because they're torrent weapons with flamers ignore cover at base, they don't ever need to be guided, but are great guiding units, especially later in the game when your opponent, because you have to have something visible, your pathfinders die or your stealth suits die, and it happens across almost every single game unless I'm just comfortably tabling my opponent. I'll use things like stealth suits to trade onto objectives, especially in lists like Retaliation Carter, where a lot of my bigger suits I want to protect and be able to use for that damage output. I use stealth suits and pathfinders and fast stalkers and everything else to annoy the shit out of my opponent. And that's a great way to play. But then what happens when all of your other guiding units are crippled or having to go for bigger things like Riptides or Sunforge units or whatever else? These guys, as having one or two of them running around, is yet another Markerlight guiding unit that is self-sufficient and able to just do what it needs to do on its own. And you're doing it for 140 points. Where the stealth suits, outside of Retaliation Carter, will never hit as hard as these guys do. They don't move as fast as these guys do. And they don't auto-hit and ignore cover on all of their weapons anyway. So, what I'm saying is that if you looked at the Star Scythe unit and you're like, I don't know where I'd fit this in, I don't know, like a lot of people online are saying that they're not good and they're situational and they're whatever, I'm having a hard time writing a list without a Star Scythe unit in there. Even just one. Deep Strike, threaten their backfield, threaten to go and get objectives that they don't think I should be able to get, and also have a late game guiding unit that if a deep strike's turn 3 or even earlier, and I'm placing it properly and I'm protecting it properly, I have something that confers Markerlight, gives me the ability to look after my higher value units in terms of damage and shooting, and have a presence on the board, always. The other thing that's incredibly important to note is this right here, the Battlesuit support system that allows them to shoot in a turn in which they fall back. Now, that's powerful for the flamers, but obviously they're vehicles, they don't suffer the -1, so you're like, why do I care about that? Well, doing certain actions requires you to be eligible to shoot. So you can try and tie me up in combat. If I'm anywhere near your home objective or one of the objectives that I need to do, be somewhere near the center for deploy teleport homers if I'm not anywhere near your deployment zone. I then, with fly, just get to fly straight over your head, ignoring you as if you don't exist, even on the biggest monsters and whatever else, because of the core rules fly ability. And then I'm eligible to shoot, so I just start performing an action. It goes off at the end of my turn, and I've got points from them, meaning that even one suit living, as long as they're not battle shocked, are able to fly over somebody's head out of combat and do what they need to do. Fall back and shoot is an incredibly powerful mechanic, especially in the landscape of 10th edition. And being able to do it on a flying unit with 5 wounds, pretty good. Pretty good. These guys make me very, very closely consider Enforcer commanders because they don't have the invulnerable save that the Sunforge has kept. We've got no way to give it to them. And -1 AP, functionally -2 if we stand wholly within a terrain feature and our opponent can't ignore the benefits of cover, then we have a unit that can be deceptively tanky. 15 wounds, can be hard to get through, as well as the Star Scythe ability improving AP, which remember, does confer to the Enforcer Commander as well. So you have Cyclics going up in value, you have the Flamers being really, really good, you have even stuff like, burst cannons and stuff aren't terrible in the landscape of them. I don't feel, for me, the burst cannons, unless I'm looking at abusing Montcar or one of the Retaliation Carter enhancements for the, what's it called? Prototype weapon system. That's what it's called. Always look it up if in doubt. The prototype weapon system and giving them sustained hits and lethal hits for only 15 points. On an Enforcer Commander with a bunch of burst cannons and everything else, I do tend to prefer it on the Cold Star because then you've got the high output burst cannon, pair that with a couple of other weapons, and you've got just a disgusting amount of output, especially if you're getting the +1 strength and the -1 AP. But even if we go into Montcar, you start looking at... I've been having a little bit of a consideration, and I'm going to give you a hot take. Potentially a hot take. I don't know how people will feel. Even in Montcar, my Star Sides are still taking Flamers. Because for me, the chance to have my, lethal hits go off on the burst cannons, okay, cool. That's nice, but it's not gonna be all the time. And if anybody's seen how I roll my dice, go and watch the streams against Pat and Nick. I don't roll particularly well. So hedging my bets with the Flamer with Ignore Cover and Torrent feeds into what I was talking about before for being a standalone useful unit. That even in Moncard with the lethal hits, even in Calyon with the double explodes and whatever, I don't care about. Though I will say in Calyon there's probably more of an argument for the burst cannons because they changed how Calyon works, and that is that when you guide for somebody, it just says when you're targeting your spotted unit, you get double explodes. That means the guider and the guidee will be getting double explodes. There is an argument to be made there, and honestly with this unit, I don't feel like there's a wrong choice. I'm just favoring the innate ignore cover and overwatch threat and everything that a torrent weapon sort of gives you. But let me know what you think in the comments. Really keen to get these guys plugged in. It was a very quick video, but I wanted to point out where some of my thinking goes with certain units. We'll have plenty more videos coming out in the lead up to the Codex's proper launch. So if you haven't already, subscribe down below, like, share, do all the internet things to please the algorithm gods. Oh, don't. I'm not your dad. Thanks to all my patrons who make all of my videos possible. If you would like to join them, get your name up on this card, and also go into the draw to win a limited edition Tau Codex, head to links in the description. The Shasui tier or higher on either YouTube or Patreon is what you're looking for. I would also like to shout out and say a massive thank you to my Pantheon tier members. These are the awesome individuals that are getting premium coaching and all of my time to have them improve the game and improve with Tau. They are also leading the spearhead on getting me to be able to do this full time. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your support. I hope you're enjoying the tier. We will have your customized merch packs coming out soon. And if you would like to join them, get access to the Discord skills seminars we're putting on at the end of every week, and also with the Game Against Me on Tabletop Simulator, the coaching sessions that they get all through the month, the 3 lists built for them, as well as a bunch of other stuff. Head to patreon.com/Pantheon Studios Australia. Have a look at the Join the Pantheon tier and everything you get, cumulative with everything below it, and join us in the Pantheon. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.